that's your pleasure, I just want to remind you that the reason I arranged for this lecture is that I have a very important message for you people. I couldn't get it in the press, and nobody would rent me a hall. I just hope I'll be given time to speak here. Mr. Osterton?
I have just one word before we start. Whatever is said tonight, please remember, the highest civic virtue is moderation. Now, if anybody wants to talk...
I heard that. Since when are you allowed to electioneer at the polls? I'm going to report you to the mayor.
Does anybody want the floor?
Mr. Chairman.
His Honor, the mayor will address the meeting.
Gentlemen, there's no reason to take very long to settle this tonight and to return to our ordinary, calm, and peaceful lives. Now, here's the issue. Dr. Stockman, my brother, and believe me, this is not easy to say, has decided to destroy Kirsten Springs, our health institute.
Let the mayor continue, please. We mustn't have any interruptions.
Now, he has a long and very involved way of going about it, but that's the brunt of it, believe me.
Well, what are we wasting time for? Run him out of town!
Now, wait a minute. I want no violence here. I want you to understand his motives. Now, he is a man, always has been, who is never happy unless he is badgering authority, ridiculing authority, destroying authority. He wants to attack the Springs so he can prove that the administration blundered in the construction.
May I speak?
The mayor is not finished.
Thank you. Now, there are some people who seem to feel that the doctor has a right to say anything he pleases. After all, we are a democratic country. Now, God knows in ordinary times, I would agree 100% with anybody's right to say anything. But these are not ordinary times. Nations have crises, and so do towns. There are ruins of nations, and there are ruins of towns all over the world. And they were wrecked by people who, in the guise of reform and pleading for justice and so on, broke down all authority and left nothing but revolution and chaos.
What the hell are you
I
talking about?
have to insist, Doctor.
I called a lecture. I didn't invite him to attack me. He's got the press and every hall in town to attack me. I've got nothing but this room tonight.
You're not making a very good impression, Doctor.
Please continue, Your Honor.
Now, here's our crisis. We all know what this town was without our institute. We could hardly afford to keep the streets in condition. It was a dead, third-rate village. Today, we are on the verge of becoming internationally known as a resort. I predict that within 5 years, the income of every man in this room will be immensely greater. I predict that our schools will be bigger and better. And in time, our roads will be filled with fine carriages. Great houses will be built here. First-rate stores will be opened all along Main Street. I predict that if we are not defamed and maliciously attacked, we will be one of the richest and most beautiful resort towns in the world. Now, there are your choices. All you have to do now is ask yourself one simple question. Has anybody the right, the democratic right, as they like to call it, to pick at minor flaws in the Springs, to exaggerate the most picayune faults, and to attempt to publish these defamations for all the world to see? We live or die on what the outside world thinks of us. I think that a line must be drawn, and that if a man decides to cross that line, we, the people, must take him by the collar and declare, you cannot say that. All right, then. All right, then. All right, all right. All right, then. I think we all understand each other. Mr. Chairman, I move that Dr. Stockman be prohibited from reading his report at this meeting.
Quiet now. I think we can proceed to the vote.
Well, aren't you going to let me speak at all?
We are just about to vote on that question, Doctor.
But damn it, man, I have the right to...
Point of order.
Yes, point of order.
Yes, Doctor.
You want to discuss the motion.
That's right, damn it. I want to discuss the motion.
All right, go ahead.
Now, listen. He talks and he talks and he talks, but not a word about the fact.
We don't want to hear any more about the water. You're just trying to blow up everything.
Well, judge for yourselves. Let me read you my report.
Quiet, please. We cannot have this uproar. Doctor, I think the majority wants to take the vote before you start to speak. If they so will, you can speak. Otherwise, the majority rules. You won't deny that.
I won't mention the Institute. I have a new discovery that's 1,000 times more important than all the institutes in the world. May I have the platform?
Well, I don't see how we can deny him that as long as he confines himself to...
The springs are not the subject. Before I go into my subject, I want to congratulate the liberals and radicals among us, like Mr. Hofstadt.
What do you mean, radical? What evidence have you got to call me a radical?
You got me there. There isn't any evidence. I guess there never really was. I just wanted to congratulate you on your self-control tonight. You who have fought in every parlor for the principles of free speech these many years.
I believe in democracy. When my readers are overwhelmingly against something, I'm not going to impose my will on the majority.
You have begun my remarks, Mr. Hofstadt. Gentlemen, ladies, Mrs. Stockman, Miss Stockman. Tonight, I was struck by a sudden flash of light. A discovery second to none. But before I tell it to you, a little story. I put in a good many years in the north of our country. Up there, the rulers of the world are the great seal and the gigantic squadrons of duck. Man lives on ice, huddled together in little piles of stone. His whole life consists of grubbing for food, nothing more. He can barely speak his own language. And it came to me one day that it was romantic and sentimental for a man of my education to be tending these people. They had not yet reached the stage where they needed a doctor. If the truth were to be told, a veterinary would be more in order.
Is that a way to refer to decent, hard-working people?
I expected that, my friend. But don't think you can fog up my brain with that magic word, the people. Not anymore. Just because there is a mass of organisms with a human shape, they do not automatically become a people. That honor has to be earned. Nor does one automatically become a man by having a human shape and living in a house and feeding one's face and agreeing with one's neighbors. That name also must be earned. Now, when I came to my conclusion about the water...
You have no right to mention...
That's a picayune thing, Peter, to catch me on a word. I'm not going into the springs. When I became convinced of my theory about the water, the authorities moved in right away. And I said to myself, I will fight them to the death because...
Are you trying to make a revolution here? He's a revolutionist.
Let me finish! I thought to myself, the majority. I have the majority. And let me tell you, friends, it was a grand feeling. Because the reason I came back to this place of my birth is that I wanted to give my education to this town. I loved it. So I spent months without pay or encouragement and dreamed up the whole project of the Springs. And why? Not, as my brother says, so that fine carriages could crowd our streets, but so that we might cure the sick, so that we might meet people from all over the world and learn from them and become broader and more